The LA Kings take care of business in Anaheim. That and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We would love for you to leave us a positive comment wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we are on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, 20 plus years at the Fox Sports Radio Network. I'm also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the last 18 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you will get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, real quick, I'm not supposed to do this as a professional broadcaster. I've been told you're not supposed to point out issues, but I hope you are seeing and hearing this in a way that you always do. I've had some issues with my computer and my microphone today. I think I figured it out. So again, if you're not hearing this in a way you normally do, I apologize, but I think everything's worked out. Technology is an amazing thing unless it doesn't work, and then it's very frustrating. But hopefully you are seeing and hearing this in the way you always hear and see this. The LA Kings are 3 days away from their home opener against the San Jose Sharks, and they have now played 6 of their 7-game season-long road trip. They are back in Southern California, and they just had their first meeting against the Anaheim Ducks on Sunday. But before we recap that game, we do have some news to pass along if you have not heard it. And that news is that Kings' number one goalie, Darcy Kuemper, has been placed on injured reserve. So officially, Kuemper is no longer day-to-day, although in reality, I think he is still day-to-day. He has been skating and working out with goalie coach Mike Buckley, so he is not expected to be out long-term. I think the Kings are just being cautious with him, and why not? It's early in the season. I think that, roster-wise, the only thing that has changed is that Phoenix Copley has no longer been the emergency call-up. He's now officially on the roster and the Kings' number 2 goaltender. So did want to get that news out of the way. Darcy Kuemper is on injured reserve, but again, it really hasn't changed. It's changed his designation on the roster, but I don't think it's changed his timeline to returning. Should be back sometime, I would think, within a week, maybe even ready for the home opener against San Jose, but we shall see about that. One other roster move, and it wasn't an official roster move, but Joel Edmondson, the defenseman, has rejoined the Kings, or did rejoin the Kings before their game against Anaheim, was in the lineup after being away from the team for a couple of days because of the birth of his first child. And congratulations once again to the Edmondsons. As for the first of 4 freeway face-off meetings against the Ducks, the Kings checked in with a record of 2-1-2. The Ducks were 2-1-1. And this is the first of 10 straight games for the Kings against Western Conference teams. Remember, they had the East Coast trip, all against East Coast teams. Now it's time to take on teams from the West. And the Kings were looking for their second straight solid performance following a 4-1 win in Montreal that wrapped up that just disjointed East Coast trip. Some good, some bad, some wacky. But the Kings officially will end this 7-game road trip to start the season in Las Vegas on Tuesday. Back to Sunday's game against the Ducks, the lineup for the LA Kings was pretty much the same we saw against Montreal. As a matter of fact, for the forwards, it was exactly the same. The top line of Andre Kopitar with Adrian Kempe and Quentin Byfield on the wings. Second line of Philip Deneau with Trevor Moore and Kevin Fiala on the wings. The third line, Alex Turcotte centering with Alex Laferriere and Warren Fogle. And the fourth line, Trevor Lewis centering Tanner Jeannot and Andre Lee. The defense would be a bit different, but not the top pairing. That would continue to be Mikey Anderson and Vladislav Gavrikov. The second pairing would see Joel Edmondson back in the lineup, and Brant Clark would be moved up from the third pairing to the second pairing. And for the third pairing, Andreas Englund would move down to that second spot, and Jordan Spence also moving down to that third spot, I should say. So Spence and Englund staying together. Caleb Jones was the defenseman out of the lineup because of the return of Joel Edmondson. As for the goaltender, we told you about Darcy Kuemper, so it's David Rittich in net, Phoenix Copley as the backup. So the big question for me going into this game against the Ducks, would the Kings get off to a good start as they did in Montreal? The answer was kind of. By the way, very cool to hear "Go Kings Go" being chanted at the drop of the puck in the opening faceoff of the game in Anaheim. Kudos to all the Kings fans who made the trip down to the OC to represent. As far as the game, though, I said kind of a good start for the Kings. It was a very uneventful opening first period. No goals were scored. It wasn't like both teams weren't skating hard and competing, but they just were never really any quality scoring chances to speak of. Not a lot of action in the opening period of this game against Anaheim. The Ducks did have 2 power plays, and the Kings easily killed both of them off. More of the same in the second period, where again we had no goals. A little bit more scoring chances, but still no great scoring chances for either team. This time it was the Kings with a pair of power play opportunities, and they wouldn't score either. In the third period, the Kings started off well and would finally get the first goal of the game. Anze Kopitar with a beautiful pass off the boards to a streaking Adrian Kempe, goes into the zone, beats the netminder Lucas Dostal, and the Kings grab a 1-0 lead. About 5 minutes later, the Ducks' young defenseman Jackson Lacombe was pressured in his own zone by Alex Turcotte. He rushed a pass cross ice and apparently did not somehow see Alex Laferriere, who easily intercepted the pass, skated in on goal, and scored to make it 2-0. And with just under 2 minutes to go, the Ducks would make it interesting, scoring their only goal of the game to make it 2-1. But then LA got empty net goals from Kevin Fiala and Mikey Anderson to seal the win. Kings get the victory 4-1, improving to 3-1-2 on the season. Ducks fall to 2-2-1. The Kings have now won 10 of their last 11 meetings head-to-head against the Anaheim Ducks, their Southern California rivals. As for the game stats in this one, obviously most of the numbers were lopsided in favor of the Kings, winning at 4-1, badly outshooting the Ducks 37-15. Matter of fact, in that third period, the Kings outshot the Ducks 18-4. Power plays, nobody was able to get on the board with a man advantage. Kings 0 for 2, Ducks 0 for 3. Faceoffs favor the Kings 33-20. Block shots favor the Ducks 17-11. That's mostly because the Kings had so many shots on goal. Hits were exactly even at 20 apiece. So what's the big takeaway from this game? It was not the prettiest of games for the LA Kings, but find a way to win. It was kind of one of those nights where both teams really just didn't have a lot going on offensively. And it wasn't because of phenomenal defense. Defense was fine, but it just, I don't know, it was no real flow to the game. The Kings did seem to grind away at the Ducks, and eventually I think the better team clearly won. The Kings did take advantage of their opportunities for the most part. Really didn't give the Ducks many good scoring opportunities at all. The one they had, they did score on. And goalie David Riddick, I thought, was fine in net. You know, again, is this going to be one of those games that anybody's going to look back on with, remembering fondly? Look, it's always awesome to beat the Ducks, especially if they're your most hated team like they are for me. And we'll take the 2 points. But again, was it a great performance by the Kings? No. Was it an adequate performance by the Kings? I would say yes. As for head coach Jim Hiller, what he had to say about this win, he said, quote, "We got to get pucks behind them. We have to forecheck, and the players would like to pass it up the ice and make nice plays. It's a never-ending battle of trying to make the play when it's there, and when it's not, getting in there and pursuing them, putting pressure on them, because nobody likes to play under pressure." The second half of the game, as we started to do that, and that's when we tilted the ice. So that was head coach Jim Hiller talking about how the Kings went about getting this win. A grinded out win, but in the end, Kings did more good things than the Ducks did, capitalized more than the Ducks did, and in the end, skate off with the victory. So what was good for the LA Kings in this game? I would say their stick-to-itiveness, if that's a word. Never really seemed to get frustrated about how the game was going. Seemed like they were confident that in the end, the better team would win and that they were the better team. And that's kind of what happened. Again, severely outshooting the Ducks in this game, especially in the third period, was certainly good. The Kings' penalty kill continues to be a strength. They killed off all 3 Anaheim opportunities with the man advantage. Matter of fact, I think the Ducks had 1 total shot on goal on their first 2 power play opportunities. And I would be willing to bet in their 3 power play opportunities, they had less than 5 shots on goal. So great job of the Kings of getting in shooting lanes, not giving the Ducks any quality opportunities at all. Kings are 17th in the NHL right now on the penalty kill, but that's more because of that ugly Senators game where they allowed 4 power play goals on 6 opportunities. If you throw out that game, the Kings have allowed 2 power play goals, 28 power play opportunities against. So I think that Ottawa game was an anomaly. I think the Kings penalty kill is going to be a strength for them this season, and it has pretty much in every game except that Ottawa game. So what was not so good for the Kings? Not generating, obviously, a lot of high-quality scoring chances, especially in the first half of the game. The power play is still not there right now. Kings were able to get the puck into the zone okay, and they had decent puck movement with the man advantage, but it never translated into really any quality scoring opportunities. Kings right now are 19th out of 32 teams in the NHL with a man advantage, 17.4%. That actually seems better than it should be. But again, that Ottawa game where the Kings were 3 for 5 on the power play, if you throw out that Ottawa game, the Kings are 1 for 23 with the man advantage. And that's Jim Hiller's kind of calling card. That was why he was hired to join the LA Kings, was to fix their power play. And he did initially, but right now it needs some fine tuning for sure. The only category the Kings are top 5 in the NHL right now is penalties taken with 68. Now, I didn't think any of the Kings penalties against the Ducks were necessarily bad penalties or bad calls. No dumb retaliations, no too many men on the ice, no pucks out of play, nothing sloppy or dumb. Just penalties that happen in the course of a normal game. But it is still something the Kings need to be aware of. So I said if the Kings got 8 points out of the 7-game road trip, I would be happy. Well, through 6 games, the Kings have 8 points, so that's good. But nothing wrong with being a little greedy. Hopefully, the Kings can get 10 points on that 7-game road trip with a win on Tuesday in Las Vegas. Up next, we look at some individual players that were good and bad for the LA Kings in their win over the Ducks. That's next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. I want to let you know that no matter how your last game went, anytime you take the field, you've got a shot at greatness. Give your team the best shot at winning by recruiting more MVPs with Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. And Indeed is the only job site where you are guaranteed to find quality applications that meet your must-have requirements, or else you don't pay. Indeed partners with you on every step of the hiring process. Find great talent through time-saving tools like Indeed Instant Match assessments and virtual interviews. And with Indeed Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of qualified candidates with resumes on Indeed that match your must-have job description, and you can invite them to apply right away. Plus, you only pay for quality applications that meet your must-have requirements. Listening to this show, you will get $75 a sponsored job credit to get your job more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right, let's get into some individual players from the Kings in their win over the Anaheim Ducks. And I want to start with Alex Laferriere. Continues his great start to the season. 4 goals in his first 7 games. Back-to-back games with game-winning goals. I love how he just doesn't seem to care, or at least isn't showing it outwardly, that he was, and you want to call this unjustly, moved off the top line and put on the third line. Doesn't seem to have affected his play one bit. He is playing the exact same way and continues to produce no matter where he is. That's awesome. Just shows what kind of attitude he has. Now, maybe if he was a more established player in the NHL, that might bother him a bit more, but certainly, and it's just his second year, seems like he doesn't care. Look, I don't care where you play me. I'm going to play hard and I'm going to do my job. And that's absolutely what he's doing. Now, the goal he scored against the Ducks was certainly a gift, but he had to finish it. He had a great opportunity and he finished it, something that not every player on the Kings is doing right now. So kudos to Alex Laferriere for capitalizing on a mistake by the other team. That's a huge part of being successful in the NHL, is creating mistakes and capitalizing on them. I thought Alex Laferriere and Brant Clark were the 2 guys that had the biggest opportunity to be breakout players for the Kings this year, as far as young guys still getting a chance, still learning their way. And again, it was mostly because Laferriere was going to get a play on the top line, I thought, and on the number 1 power play unit, where he still is. But again, really impressive how he has handled this, if you want to call it a demotion, and it's just playing at a high level. I love the chemistry that Laferriere has right now with Alex Turcotte, who had an assist in this game and then forced the turnover that led to the Laferriere goal. So really like what we're seeing out of Alex Laferriere so far. Adrian Kempe continues to be a duck killer. He had the first goal in this game in his career, 16 goals in 34 games against Anaheim, by far the most goals and points he has against any other opponent. The only other player he has double-digit goals against, or the only other team he has double-digit goals against in his career, is St. Louis with 10. So 16 goals against the Ducks. Good to see Juice still loves scoring against the Ducks. Anze Kopitar had a beautiful pass to Kempe off the boards for the first goal of the game, and that is chemistry. Kopi knows Kempe so well. They played so much together. He knows how to get him a puck in a position for him to be successful. He knows how to get him the puck to be able to use his speed to his advantage. Perfect play by the captain. And his 8th point of the season for Anze Kopitar. He now has 1,219 in his career, 797 assists, and he is tied with Jean Beliveau for 45th in NHL history. And if you don't know who Jean Beliveau is, and he was before my time, but he was like the Joe DiMaggio of hockey. And maybe that's a reference you don't get as well, but like a legendary figure in the sport of hockey. So cool to see Kopi is tied with him in points. Kings defenseman Brant Clark didn't have a point in this game, but it wasn't from a lack of trying. He had a team high 6 shots on goal. I like Clark looking for his shot, but oftentimes I really think he's not looking to score. I think he's just looking to put the puck in a high danger area and hope to get rebounds. And I like that. It definitely keeps the defense on their toes, and definitely is something I think his teammates are getting adjusted to. But I liked his offensive mindset in that game against Anaheim. Vladislav Gavrikov has been playing just fine, thank you, on his offside, being switched from the second pairing on the left to the top pairing on the right with Mikey Anderson. And I did not know that that was something he could do. Apparently, he has said he's done it in the past, and it's not a big deal to him. So kudos to whoever's idea it was in the coaching staff, Jim Hiller or whoever, to give that a shot. And it's only been 2 games, but I think that Vladislav Gavrikov looks very comfortable playing alongside Mikey Anderson on that top pairing. Gavrikov did have an assist against the Ducks. He was a +3 in the game against Anaheim. And I like what he's done so far in a very small sample size, playing on that top line on his offside. So good for him. And hey, Mikey Anderson, he gets a goal and an assist in this game. He's got 2 goals on the season. He's already totaled his entire season output. He had 2 goals all of last year and now has 2 goals this season. Mikey Anderson. I mean, Jim Hiller told Mikey to be more offensive, and so far, so good. Although, to be fair, the goal he had against the Ducks was a little bit lucky. He threw it off the boards, and it took just the right angle and went into the empty net. But hey, they all count. David Riddick was solid in net, obviously playing for Darcy Kemper. Wasn't called upon to do a lot. The 1 goal he allowed was not a soft goal, a deflection on a player crashing the net. That's more on his teammates and coverage issues. But sometimes it's not easy for a goaltender to not get a lot of action and still be focused on top of his game. And Riddick was sharp when he needed to be. So good job by the Kings' number 2 goalie of filling in for the number 1 goalie and getting the job done. I do have to mention Kevin Fiala, and he is still having issues finishing. He missed on a breakaway, and he's missed on some breakaways and some clear shots on net in high scoring chances. He had a couple of good scoring chances against the Ducks, one breaking in all alone. Didn't finish like Alex Laferriere did. He has missed on a penalty shot this year. So, look, he's got 4 goals in 6 games. So I don't think anyone's going to complain about that for sure. But he could have, honestly, he could have 8 goals easily at this point in the season. So it's still a little bit of a struggle for Kevin. He has not found his finishing touch yet. Hopefully that comes up soon. The Kings haven't really needed it so far, but they will at some point, and especially come late in the season and hopefully playoff time. So I'm sure he'll get it figured out, but so far, Kevin not finishing off his opportunities so far. And one minor complaint through the first 7 games of the season for the Kings as far as coaching decisions. Still no Akil Thomas. I don't get it. I have said that I like Andre Lee, and he's been fine. But you couldn't get Akil Thomas 1 game so far through 6 games. If I was a head coach, and I will never be, but I would make a concerted effort to get my extra players in the lineup. I would say at least once every 5 games, just to keep them fresh, to keep them kind of motivated, to reward them a little bit. And it's not like, the fourth line has been so lights out, we can't take anybody off that line. So I don't know. I would like to have just seen Akil Thomas get a game at this point. It's a minor complaint, but a complaint nonetheless. Coming up next, we've got our 3 stars of the game for the Kings win over the Ducks and some other notes to tell you about. That is next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Hey, NFL fans, once you start the season, you have a chance for a big return with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live, play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And, of course, FanDuel is there for you to bet on Major League Baseball's postseason. Oh, by the way, the Dodgers are in the World Series against the New York Yankees. You may have heard about that. Dodgers are favored by a 1.5 in Game 1 Friday in Los Angeles. The over-under for that game is 8.5. I would take the over on that one. Dodgers are a -122 to win it all. Join FanDuel and browse the latest betting odds, your favorite sports and teams on their sportsbook app, and get in on the action. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. We do have our 3 stars of the game to give out for the Kings win over the Anaheim Ducks. And it was a little bit hard to pick because, it wasn't a big output offensively. Yeah, you got a couple of empty net goals. But, let's go with our number 3 star, David Riddick. Again, he was not needed to make a lot of saves, only 14 in the game, but got the job done, and filling in for Darcy Kemper has done a good job so far. I'm going to go Mikey Anderson for the number 2 star. Throw Mikey a little bit of a bone here with his 2-point performance. The only player for the Kings who had 2 points with a goal, the empty net goal, and an assist. And my number 1 star is Alex Laferriere, I believe for the second straight game. He has the game-winning goal for the LA Kings. So awesome job by the Kings all the way around. A good team effort in this one. Again, not a pretty win over the Ducks, but we will take the 2 points every time. So again, 3 stars for the win over the Ducks. David Rittich, my number 3 star, Mikey Anderson, number 2, and Alex Laferriere as my number 1 star. I do want to update you, and we like to do this on our Monday shows as far as what's going on in the Pacific Division. If you haven't been paying attention, and it's certainly understandable if you have not, but right now, the surprising Calgary Flames are on top in the Pacific Division. They have yet to lose in regulation. They're 4-0-1 on the season for 9 points, so a bit of surprise there for Calgary. The Kings and the Kraken are currently tied for second place, each with 8 points. LA checks in with a 3-1-2 record. Seattle is 4-2. The Kings' next opponent, the Vegas Golden Knights, is 3-2-1 on the season. They're in I guess they're in 3rd place, but they're the 4th team in the standings. They've got 7 points right now. Vancouver with 6 points. They are 2-1-2 on the season. The Ducks, 5 points at 2-2-1. The Oilers no longer in last place, but 7th place, second to last in the division. They've got 4 points with a record of 2-4. Of course, they got off to the 0-4 start, so they've won 2 in a row. And the Sharks, still winless on the season, 0-4-2. Looking forward to that staying that way when the Kings host them in their home opener coming up on Thursday. A quick rain report. The Kings AHL affiliate had to scramble a bit in regards to their goaltending. Number 1 goalie Eric Portillo was out for their last game due to an illness. Obviously, Phoenix Copley not there, playing the backup role for David Riddick with the Kings right now because of the injury to Darcy Kemper. So the Reign had to go with Jacob Ingham in net for their game against the Bakersfield Condor, and they brought in veteran J.F. Berube to be the backup. The Reign would end up losing that game at home to Bakersfield 4-1. That was on Friday night, their only game of the week. Tyler Madden had the lone goal for Ontario. Jacob Ingham allowed 2 goals on 14 shots. Bakersfield had a couple of empty net goals to ice the game, so kind of like the Kings against the Ducks. Reign are now 2-1 on the season. They will play at Coachella Valley on Friday against the Firebirds, and then they will host the Henderson Silver Knights on Sunday. And congratulations to Kings' first-round pick in this year's draft, Liam Greentree. The Ontario Hockey League forward is currently leading that league in goals, and he was named, actually leading him in points, And Liam Greentree was named the OHL Player of the Week with 11 points in 3 games for the Windsor Spitfires. So the Kings' number 1 pick in this year's draft, Liam Greentree, off to a very fine start to his junior season. Finally, the TV home of the LA Kings, Bally Sports, is no more. It is now FanDuel Sports, a proud sponsor of this show as well. So what does that mean for you as a Kings fan if you've been watching the games on Bally Sports? Absolutely nothing. They are just rebranding. Everything is staying exactly the same. Some of the graphics that you see will change. Obviously, you won't see Bally Sports anymore. It'll be FanDuel, but it does not affect us as consumers in any way. So bye-bye Bally Sports. It is now FanDuel Sports, your home on the TV side for LA Kings hockey. All right, that'll do it for today's show. Again, hopefully everything, it might look a little different because I have a different setup going on here if you're watching on YouTube, but hopefully everything sounded the same and looked fine. If not, we'll try and correct that for tomorrow's show. For you everydayers, those of you that listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, coming up on tomorrow's show, we're going to preview the Kings' final game on this 7-game road trip in Las Vegas against the Golden Knights. Wednesday, we'll obviously recap that game. Thursday, the voice of the LA Kings, Nick Nixon, is scheduled to join us, talk about his career, his final year with the Kings, and also the Kings season so far. Friday, we will recap the Kings home opener against the San Jose Sharks, and as usual, have our weekly Kings fan feedback show. Should be a busy week, should be a fun week. Hope you will join us every day this week. If you want to get an email for the feedback show or send me an email for anything, lockedoneddie@gmail.com is the email address, EDDIE. You can always post your thoughts if you're watching on YouTube in the comment section. We appreciate that. Stay interactive with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram. We are at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you as always for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We will talk to you tomorrow. And as always, go Kings, go.